Good morning, everybody. I'm excited about you guys joining this morning's session to learn a little bit about process improvement and the service that we do offer here at the state. These are our, I know I'll have a quick session, but we are going to try to touch on all of these items in today's session. So I know one of the things we've had a question about in the past about is why is our process improvement team at DIT? You know, when people think DIT, they think technology experts, which we do have plenty of those. But it all goes back to this quote from Bill Gates. You know, the first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation applied to an efficient process will magnify the efficiency, and automation applied to an inefficient process will magnify the inefficiency. So back in, I think it was 2015, our team was created to try to work with agencies to improve business processes prior to those processes being automated. This is the crew. So there's a whopping three of us. So there's myself, Missy Sawyer, there's Jen Pollard, and also Terrence Creech. So one of the wonderful things about our team is that we do have a diverse background in terms of work experience. You know, we've worked in private corporations, different government segments. So we just bring a lot of different experience and different viewpoints, I guess, to the different engagements we have with teams and the teams that we engage on. So when we talk about process improvement, what that means to us is, you know, just continuously improving and trying to make changes to your process to better the customer's experience. You know, make your process more efficient and more effective for the customer. The methodology that we use to do that is called Lean Six Sigma. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of that. Some of you guys may not have. But Lean Six Sigma is the methodology that relies on a collaborative team effort to improve performance by systemically removing waste within a process. So that's actually the Wikipedia definition. So when you talk about lean, it is a different methodology than Six Sigma. So lean is all about removing waste or making your process more efficient. And then Six Sigma is more about the quality, you know, reducing variation and reducing defects within your process. And then we combine those to create Lean Six Sigma because you guys know if you make something faster, you don't want the quality to diminish. So you really need to look at both aspects of it to effectively improve your process. So that is the methodology and the framework that we utilize with our engagements with organizations when we're looking at their business processes. And one of the keys here that I want to touch on is in this definition, you see collaborative team effort. Lean Six Sigma process improvement initiatives are not successful unless you have a collaborative and diverse team. And when I say diverse team, we're talking both functionally, so having you know, different support groups involved in initiatives with maybe a service or the business team. But you also need a collaborative team from a hierarchical perspective as well. So no Lean Six Sigma initiative is successful if you do not have SMEs, subject matter experts, and the people that touch the process day in and day out working to improve their own process. So I think that's key to know. I know you've seen it before where you might have just managers or leaders trying to improve a process, but you really need that leadership involved, but also the SME level involved in initiatives. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind when you think about trying to improve your processes in the future. This is just a visual to show you per the textbook classification of steps and activities in a process. There's kind of two groupings. There's value-added versus non-value-added activities in a process. And normally when we do assessments, normally 60% of processes, 60% of your process is what we would consider non-value added, just pure waste. Okay, so essentially all we're trying to show here is that there is a lot of opportunity in business processes. And hopefully you guys see that there's opportunities within your processes. You may not see that as well, but just want to let you know there is a lot of opportunity within your process that, you know, we could either help you with, or maybe even you could go to some training to help you understand what is considered waste within your process. But again, this slide is here just to show you there's a lot of opportunity within your process typically for improvement. Again, the methodology we use is Lean Six Sigma, and there's a certain framework. There's actually two frameworks within Lean Six Sigma. There's one that's called DMAIC, which is the one that's highlighted or you know, kind of circled here with that rectangular box, and there's also one called DMAVI, but we focus on DMAIC. So DMAIC really focuses on fixing existing processes or services. DMAVI gets into when you're starting from complete scratch with a service or process, but we typically here at the state, we focus on the DMAIC framework because we're normally tweaking something that is in place. Even if something's extremely immature from a process or service perspective, there's usually something to analyze. So we do focus on the DMAIC framework. And this will give you an idea of the types of things we would step through. So if you guys decide to engage with us on an initiative or decided to try to improve your own process, with maybe some of your teammates or team members, these are some of the logical steps you should go through to thoroughly analyze and improve your process. So the first piece is define. All right. So this is where you really want to understand, what your customers are thinking of your service or process, what are their likes, dislikes, that type of thing. And you want to create your charter. So your charter is where you document, what's the problem we're trying to solve. That's essentially what you really want to understand out of this define phase is what is our problem. You don't want to make change just for the heck of making change, right? There needs to be a problem you're trying to solve. So the define phase is all about creating that or understanding what that problem is and creating your goal statement. So that is documented in a charter. And then in the measure phase, this is where you're truly understanding what's going on in your process, right? Yeah, you have a problem, but what's really going on? What does your process really look like? What are all the steps involved in the process? Who are all the stakeholders involved in your process? So that you really need to understand truly what's going on within your process. And we love data, right? So you really want to try to gather data to quantify what's going on in your process as well. And then analyze, that's where you say, all right, well, this is how we're currently performing, right? We kind of understand that now from the measure phase, and we know we have a goal, so somewhere we need to get to. So analyze is all about looking at that gap, what's holding us back from that future state or from that goal, and what are some of the root causes to the problem that we're having. So that's what happens in analyze phase. And we find that a lot of people like to skip over the measure and analyze phase and just say, hey, we have a problem, and then they jump to the improve phase and try to implement solutions, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why this framework is um, so successful is that you are truly quantifying what's going on in your process, truly looking at those root causes, and then you're putting improvements in place to fix those root causes so your problem doesn't reoccur. But anyway, so improve, we all know about the improve phase, right? This is where we actually improve solutions or make solutions, I'm sorry, to our process. And again, these should be targeting some of your root causes that you've identified. But anyway, this is where you make improvements and you design out your future state. And the control, that is making sure that you're sustainable, right? Whatever improvements you just made, that you're sustainable. So again, these are the steps we go through with teams. Sometimes with our engagements, we'll work on every phase of the DMAIC framework with teams. Sometimes we'll just come in at certain points to help with some of the tools and artifacts needed for that one phase. So we're kind of flexible in our engagement levels, but we would love to do a full DMAIC cycle with teams if that's an opportunity on engagements and for certain processes and projects. All right, again, just talking about summer engagement. So when our team was first created back in 2015, we really just focused on internal initiatives within DIT. A lot of that had to do with us just understanding, what do we do here at DIT, what are some of the services we offer, who are some of the leaders and employees involved in some of those key services. So we just really focused on internal improvements within DIT. And then we started kind of expanding out a little bit, and we would start working on improvements that just impacted one agency, so outside of DIT, not within DIT, but other agencies. And then we moved into where we started working on initiatives that would impact multiple agencies, across the board. So we're actually still in, we kind of span actually 3 phases now. We're kind of in phase 2, 3, and 4, just depending on the engagement. So some of the initiatives that we've worked on, for an example, for like a phase 2 that we're currently engaged on could be Department of Environmental Quality, okay, improving some of their permitting processes. So that's an engagement where we're just involved with DEQ on an initiative. Phase 3 example could be something to the effect of HR processes. So my colleague Jen Pollard has worked on HR processes in terms of creating a gold standard for HR processes. So that is an initiative where we had multiple agencies involved that could adopt that gold standard process if they chose to. But anyway, so we work kind of on different types of engagements that, like I said, impact one or multiple agencies at a time. So I know a lot of you guys are probably very familiar with the IT project phases. So there's concept, initiation, planning, and beyond in terms of the IT project phases. And I just want to show you how some of, I guess, our tools, techniques, and engagements can align with some of those phases. So you can see that whole DMAIC framework that I just talked to you guys about, if we were doing a full-blown process improvement initiative, going through each phase of the DMAIC process or framework, that would happen in concept, okay? Very early on in concept is when we would need to get engaged. However, there are some other items that we could do within concept as well, right? Some a la carte type stuff. If we didn't want to do a full-blown DMAIC initiative, we could do, maybe just help with some problem solving. Let's say that the business unit does have a problem they're trying to solve, and we could just come in and help facilitate some problem solving sessions. We can also help with charter development for teams that might, struggle a little bit with developing their charter or really documenting a good problem statement and goal statement. So then initiation, this is again just like in the measure phase of the DMAIC framework. Initiation for the IT phase is all about understanding what's really going on in the process as well. So we could really help with current state mapping in that phase if we're doing just some type of a la carte like service or using a tool here and there from our Lean Six Sigma toolkit. And then you can see in planning, there's a few different things that we could add value on, and then beyond, some dashboards, process performance management items, RACI diagrams, which gets into roles and responsibilities for team, and so forth. So again, our engagements are not just full-blown DMAIC initiatives; they are also kind of a la carte type things, just depending on what you guys as customers and organizations need from us. If we look back and just see common failure modes across the board for, let's say, improvement initiatives, two of the most common failure modes that we see is one, you do not have the right sponsor involved, or the sponsor has not identified and set a clear direction for the team to go in. So you must have good sponsorship, complete support from your sponsor, and the sponsor has kind of set a clear direction for the team. So that's one key success factor. And then the second key success factor, like I said, I touched on earlier, is that you must have SMEs, subject matter experts, involved in your improvement initiative. You can get all the way to pretty much implementing change without SMEs involved, but when you talk about that control phase and sustainability, you're going to struggle big time with the change management side of things if you do not involve SMEs in your initiative, and usually it will flop and it will not work. So again, these are just two very critical success factors for improvement initiatives. Like I said, have the right sponsor and make sure you have a supportive sponsor in place, and also make sure you have SMEs involved in your initiative. All right, so just like with most intake processes, or if somebody's requesting help for something, we have a process here, which is contact us and issue request. We can look at it based on the impact that it can have for the organization, and also look at our capacity. But anyway, if you ever wanted to ask us if a project was right, then you could send us an email at pi.support@nc.gov, or reach out to Jamie and her team. As well, like I said, they know the suite of services that DIT offers, so they might be the best first touch. But again, we're fine fielding any questions you may have if you think that our service could benefit your organization, that type of thing. And then also, if you are reaching out to us about a project, you need these four things in place, essentially, before we agree to engage on an initiative. And again, I feel like a broken record probably, you guys probably feel like that as well, is that you must have a sponsor, supportive sponsor, and the right sponsor involved. And what do we mean by the right sponsor? So one of the things that we say is that we want a sponsor to have organizational authority over the impacted processes or services. Okay, so if you're trying to improve a process that spans multiple managers or multiple directors, you need the person above them to be the sponsor, because you will come to a point where maybe those two managers or directors do not see eye to eye or have some type of conflict, right? You need that sponsor to be able to help you overcome barriers or issues that you may be having. So again, it's critical to have the right sponsor involved. Next thing is have a clear problem statement, right? Like I said, we're not just going to go change things for the heck of changing things. We want there to be a problem we're trying to solve to improve your business process. So make sure you have a problem statement, that your initiative is aligned to a strategic goal for your organization, and that the goal is measurable as well. And then the next piece that we're going to close out on is that, as you guys saw, we're a very small team. We want to help your organization as best we can. But we also feel that helping the state as a whole is not just about us engaging with you guys on initiatives, but it's also about getting your teams more familiar with these tools and more comfortable using these tools on a day-to-day basis. So we actually have a couple different training opportunities if your team wanted to learn more about Lean Six Sigma. One is a yellow belt class. I highly recommend, honestly, everybody attending a yellow belt class. It's a one-day course. Out of that course, the participants should be able to lead like a very small improvement in terms of maybe just like leading or facilitating an exercise for using one tool, like a problem solving tool, or maybe going out and being comfortable doing a process map, that type of thing. And then for those that might actually need to lead initiatives, like more larger scale initiatives, we do have a green belt course. hopefully you like math if you attend the Greenbelt course, but it is a 6-day course and definitely adds a lot to that toolkit that the participants learn in the Yellow Belt class. But anyway, so those are 2 opportunities we're going to leave you guys with. If you're interested in those in a Yellow Belt, you can register for an LMS. So just look up DIT Lean Six Sigma, and you should be able to find the course options. But anyway, so we're going to leave you with that today. Thanks again for learning about our service, and hopefully we'll be able to engage with some of you guys in the future.